Welcome to the Tech Sales Funnels Podcast, where we dive deep and answer the ultimate question, how did you hack into tech sales? Each week, we bring you inspiring stories, proven strategies, and insider tips from top performers who've cracked the code to break into tech sales and thrive. Whether you're just starting out, making a career pivot, or ready to level up, this is your go-to space for actionable advice and real-world success stories. Let's crack the code together, because hacking into tech sales isn't just a dream, it's your next move. Now with your host, the founder of Tech Sales Funnels and the tech sales hacker himself, Dayvisson DaSilva.
Right, and welcome everyone to the TechSales Funnels Podcast. I'm Dayvisson DaSilva, the tech sales hacker, your host. And today I'm joined by Leslie Venetz. She's a Sales Innovator of the Year, US Today bestselling author of Profit Generating Pipeline and founder of the tech sales led GTM agency. If you want to reps who talk with buyers and not at them, this is your playbook. And today I want to dive deeper into her life and what she does. I found her on LinkedIn and I was super impressed, and she's amazing content creator and does a lot of amazing things. So welcome Leslie today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And I love that's like one of my favorite quotes. I mean, I know it's my own quote, but like talk with them instead of at them. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love that tagline. And we can actually start like from like right over there, like on that tagline. How did you come up with that? Like why that's so important for you?
I wrote it in a comment on LinkedIn one day. And then the person that I wrote the comment to replied and was like, oh, that's super catchy. And I was like, that is super catchy. And it's this perfect like distillation of everything that I believe when I am talking about how to create sales messaging or how to run discovery meetings or how to earn the right to somebody's attention. So it just stuck after that. Sometimes the simplest things just come to us by accident.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I know you have wrote a book, and you have all those amazing trainings and that you do. Let's start at a very high level. Like, who's Leslie? Like, if someone's coming across with you, you're not talking about your book, nothing at all about tech sales, B2B sales, like at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think the biggest transition for me over the past few years has been leaving corporate America and becoming a full-time founder, becoming a solopreneur by choice. So it's been pretty, yeah, it's been a pretty special journey and transition to divorce myself from a lot of like the habits and the really like harmful toxic narratives that I maybe was using towards myself in corporate America, to rebuild this life that I'm like, it's a life that I no longer feel like I need to escape from, which is not something I ever had in like the 15 years in corporate America. So that's a pretty important evolution in like the who is Leslie story.
Okay. So you're like successfully transitioned to entrepreneurship, and you're building your own business. And I feel like a lot of people listening to this, they are tech sellers, right? They're either hacking into tech sales, starting their career, or they're trying to ramp up, to grow, to develop, to be better sellers. But also a lot of them are actively thinking like, what else can I do outside of corporate America? And your journey, it's inspirational. What was the biggest trigger, and like what would you, if you could go back in time, like what would you tell to those people who are trying to pivot?
Well, I think anybody can have like a passion project, a side hustle, and there's no reason to not be making a little bit of extra income on the side if you can do it like without burning out. And that's how I started. I had joined a early stage startup, a bootstrap startup, as employee number one. They had given me the idea. I created the MVP, the minimum viable project. I took that to market and launched it quite successfully. So I ran their entire GTM launch. And we had 21 clients within 9 months, which is like pretty significant for a scrappy boot stage startup in a saturated industry. And it put this idea in my head that if I could do it for somebody else, for somebody else's idea in this very saturated place, surely I could do it for myself. And at the time, I had no plans to leave corporate. I was still very set on like chief revenue officer before 40. Like I was very, my identity was still very tied up in my title and how much I made and the job I was doing at the time. So I started my own company and started doing some of this as a side hustle, not because I ever thought it would become my full-time job, but I just thought, hey, if I can do it for somebody else, maybe I should have the company in case I ever need it, ever want to use it. And I'm really grateful that I started building before I wanted to go full time or before I like needed to have something built, because it made the transition into being a full-time founder much, much more rewarding.
Very interesting. So that's a really, really good point. You don't have to just jump right off the bat, or you can just be a fractional, like that's kind of what you did, like on the side, a side hustle, and then develop your skills from there. That's amazing. Now, so sales, how did you get involved though in B2B sales? Like the origin story, right? From like back in the days, did you always out of college or just started straight up in sales? Like how did you get involved in this world of B2B sales and SaaS?
Kind of begrudgingly, and I can definitely tell that story, but I do want to add just one thing to
Yeah.
folks that might be thinking about leaving their jobs to like do full-time founder sort of life. Unless you are in a unsafe situation, I highly recommend that you take your time to build your side business before you try to make it your full-time business. And I was not doing fractional work on the side. I was doing training, like corporate training. That's what I like. That's the product I built the company off the back of, and some sort of advisory. And that's a lot of what the business is now. And not only do I think you should build your business while you're still getting a full-time paycheck so that you have a little bit of that safety, you don't make bad decisions in terms of what clients you're going to take on because you're like thirsty for revenue. I also think it's an incredibly like special opportunity to decide what type of work you're really called to, because you can test different types of work as, like as a passion project type business before you have to commit to like, what is the line of work that I'm going to do. So I think that that's just important to say. It's an especially difficult job market right now. It's an extremely crowded market for like anybody calling themselves a consultant, a fractional advisor, or whatever. So my
Very
word of
wise.
advice to folks, don't just jump ship without building as strong of a foundation as you can to make sure that you're successful when you do decide to pursue a full-time founder journey.
I love
But
that.
yeah,
No. In fact, I feel like this is very, very important to talk about. How would you define the outside of the financial cushion, right? Like the runaway or that strong foundation. How would you define that? Like when people, because I think that's the biggest challenge is people, they're like, it's time. It's a green light. Is it a yellow light? Is it a red light? When can I like overlap?
I think everybody has to make that decision for themselves. Like that is not my core area of expertise. I can only share my own story. I do think something that's really powerful, because I predominantly work for companies that are like 30 million plus in revenue. Like I'm working for very established companies, but I still dabble in a little bit of founder-led advisory because I do love working with early stage founders in small amounts. And I think one of the most important questions is asking yourself, do I want to build a company? Like, do I want to be an employer or don't I? And it's one of the questions that I talk through with some of my early stage founder clients, because for them to be successful as a startup founder, like as a tech founder, which is I think what a lot of folks conceptualize when they think about starting their own company, they have to be extremely passionate, not just about being a founder, but also about building an entire company and about being an employer, because they will have to hire folks. And without that passion to build this entire ecosystem around the product, around your clients, around your employees, you're not going to succeed. So just thinking about it in the scope of like a passion, a truth that I see in all of my successful founder-led advisory clients, like being really jazzed about not just being a founder, but also jazzed about selling your product, continuing to be a salesperson as you sell your product, and then also being a leader of people. Those are two things that not enough folks think about that are really important to have in founders.
I love that. Is that something that you teach, that you advise as part of your practice, or is just kind of out of
No,
your head? Okay.
definitely. Yeah, no, definitely not. Like I do a very, very, very small amount of founder-led advisory. Like it's not even something I sell.
Okay.
When I get referrals, introductions inbound, and there's a strong values alignment, I will continue to offer that. It's a product I used to sell.
Okay.
And then I just decided it was not for me. I wanted to work on bigger, more up channel deals where I could do more like outbound systems work and do the full strategy, do the repeatable process creation, and do the mindset and skill set enablement for the team. And you need to be, in that 30 million plus range for that to really work. And so when I do work with founders, it's kind of in one-off cases, and it is more about helping them from that founder-led sales approach. Like, what is their go-to-market approach as a founder who is still in a sales seat? But I don't help with like hiring or
Okay.
product marketing or anything like that. It's how do you get those initial customers that are going to define your business? That's what I work with them on.
Okay, so let's dive deep into that, because I know that's probably the topic of your book, and we can dive a little bit more on that area. Can you tell us a little bit more about, you know, what is your day to day life? And right before this call, you were talking to potential clients. Who's your client? What do you do? And let's dive into that field.
Yeah, I do a couple of different things because I'm a founder and I can, sort of make my own revenue stream. So I make money in three ways. One is brand partnerships, which was really
Okay.
fun. As you know, I create a tremendous amount of content on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn editorial top voice for sales. I'm a LinkedIn sales beacon. I'm consistently one of Fampacon's top 10 like women in B2B sales to follow. So I work with a lot of brand partners there. And then I also have a pretty significant following on TikTok. I
Yeah,
was the
definitely.
first person to do B2B sales, like tips and techniques on TikTok.
Wow.
And I got the @sales_tips_talk handle, which is a pretty OG handle. So I have a line of business where I do brand partnerships. That's really fun, a little bit of the creative energy. But where I make the majority of my money is either doing outbound sales strategy consulting. And so I
Mm,
like co-create strategy and processes and then do enablement with clients. Or I run a really healthy business doing training and keynote speaking. And so I spend a pretty good chunk of the year, sometimes virtual, but often in person with clients, doing interactive training workshops, doing keynotes for their sales kickoffs. So I have three pretty distinct lines of business, and all of them scratch a bit of a different itch from like creativity and connecting with reps and sharing knowledge.
that's awesome. Is that an area that you enjoy the most, or they're like kind of balanced? And you don't have a favorite child?
Um, that's hard to say. I think if I didn't have all three, I think I would not enjoy each of them as much, because if I had to make
Yeah.
any one of them like my entire business, I think it would erode some of the joy I feel.
Yeah.
But the one that absolutely like fills my cup to the tip top is live speaking events.
Mm,
Like I just absolutely love being in person with sales reps, like working through problems with them and answering their questions. And the energy in the room is so high. And then afterwards, weeks, months later, I get emails from them telling me what they've been testing out, the results they've been
mm.
getting, and how the positive impact it's made on their life. So there's something very special about getting the opportunity to share knowledge and work with those reps in person and see not only the immediate impact just in terms of like energy level and engagement, but to get to hear the long-term impact it's had on their success.
I see. So you have boots on the ground. You're talking to sellers all the time, and they're probably telling all the challenges that they have. What is the biggest challenge that you have seen lately? Because you have been in sales for so long, and also there's this whole AI revolution. And what are you seeing on the field, and then how you are addressing those needs? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of things that are like brand new. I think the newest one is as I'm building sequences for clients, I'm now putting in a script for AI call recording, like the call
Mm,
screening for iPhones.
interesting.
And so that's like, I wasn't even doing that 3 months ago, but
Mhm.
now these reps need a script so that when the call screening picks up on iPhones, they have something to say that really gets to the point quickly, so that they both can get their get their connect rates as high as possible, but also so it becomes a meaningful touch point that supports the rest of their sequence touches on LinkedIn, on email. So that's like brand new.
Mm,
I maybe not as new, but equally relevant. I definitely hear a lot of reps that are really frustrated with AI because they feel like they're behind already, or because their company is telling them they need to use AI, but they're using it and it doesn't actually feel like it saves them time. It just makes them like have to do something different, but it's not getting the results that we've kind of been promised. That's a big frustration I've
interesting.
heard from people. But I think honestly the one that I'm hearing the most, and
Mhm.
it's probably because I work with companies who are a bit later stage in their outbound maturity. So
Mhm.
the one that I hear the most is not understanding which signals to use, or like which triggers to use for outreach, and understanding how to communicate like the significance of the trigger in a way that is relevant to the prospects. And that's pretty
Mm,
new, because even though folks have been using like triggers and intent data for years, the ability to surface signals using AI, like it's easier to access them and to get them faster than it ever has before. So a big question that I'm hearing from reps is, how do I know which signals to use, and how do I use them in a way that's relevant to the person getting my messages?
interesting. Oh yeah, a lot of new challenges though. Like right, like
Yeah.
there wasn't there like you said 3 months ago. It's moving way too fast, and if sales organizations can't catch up, then they cannot catch up on the sales either. Um,
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that's one of the best parts about being in sales, is that it's a profession of continuous improvement. It's a profession that's constantly evolving. And so
mhm.
the best sellers are the folks like you that have that always be learning, that learn it all mindset. And they say, oh, hey, like iPhone rolled out this new call screening, and instead of going to LinkedIn and complaining that that's the death of cold calls,
Yeah.
figuring out how to use it to show up with a script to support the rest of their process. And so I think we're really seeing the sellers that are finding ways to be maybe a bit more strategic and a bit more thoughtful on how to use AI, how to use signals, how to overcome some of the new challenges like iPhone call screening. We're really seeing them rise to the top right now.
Mm, awesome. Have you seen the death of anything, or do you foresee the death of anything in the future? Like I know a lot of people talk about cold calling, that's dead and all that. Um, what do you see as a sales enabler? Teaching, building those teams,
Yeah.
the best strategies.
I know folks love rage bait titles like cold calling is dead. You remember during the pandemic, it was we're never going to shake hands. The handshake is dead. Like
Face to
people
face is
just love a sensational title. And I think that that is a distraction, because it's also very, like it's very tied to folks that teach like tricks and tactics and that rely
Mm,
heavily on those types of fads to do business. And that's not a durable way to build sales processes. That's not like a durable set of skills to bring into the market. So I do not
I
get caught
love
up in
that.
like what's dead and like the death of stuff. And instead I focus on those foundational truths, which are
Love it.
very tied to like buyer centricity and buyer psychology, because while
Mm,
those things evolve, they don't change. Like it's not going to be true
yeah.
one day and false the next. You have to stay on top of them. You have to evolve as our buyers evolve. But when you stick with the foundations, when you stick with buyer centricity instead of tricks and trends, you
Mm,
don't have to worry about constantly changing week to week.
I love that because I try to do the same with job search because I like to call myself a job search strategist. I don't like to teach like the trends, the new AI tools that just came up. I teach principles of job search that they worked 20 years ago, they work now, and they're gonna be working 10 years from now. And that's what I'm hearing for you. And that's probably is that part of your book? The things that can you tell us a little bit more about your book and then what you're teaching on on the book so the audience can go ahead and grab it
Yeah.
and dissect.
Yeah, principles is a really good way to say it, and you do see a lot of that in my book. You see a lot of like buyer psychology and behavioral science being
Mm,
tied into the things that I teach. So the name of the book is Profit Generating Pipeline: Proven Formula to Earn Trust and Drive Revenue, and it's three parts. And the first part is very mindset oriented, based in like why trust is so important and why it is so essential that we earn the right to ask for our prospects attention and time and consideration and business, sort of as a baseline. But in part two, I get into the 9-step proven formula to create a
mm,
profit generating pipeline. And you're so right. There are so many of those principles that are underlying foundations that are going to be true no matter what. And so this book is very, very focused on how to take somebody from like building their territory and figuring out who to reach out to,
mm,
what to say to them, where to say it, how to structure that through to the discovery meeting. And I include the discovery meeting because I deeply believe that's the point where we switch from a sales process to a buying process. It's our last opportunity to earn the right to get somebody to
mm.
want to buy from us, to be engaged in the process. And so we walk through those principles of how to run that top of funnel formula in a way that is very buyer centric.
I love it. So an evergreen kind of a process or a system or a methodology to build from scratch, no matter what you sell, right? Uh,
I think it matters a
that
little bit what you sell,
okay? Tell
because
yeah,
it's
tell us a little bit more. Yeah.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely for B2B. And that doesn't mean that many of the principles wouldn't be relevant to folks who sell B2C. Like if you think about my
Okay.
foundational principle of earn the right, it's a litmus test that asks, before you show up to a discovery sales call or before you
Gotcha.
send that email, what have you done to earn the right to ask for this person's attention and time? That's tried and true. That applies to anybody in the sales profession, even folks that are like maybe don't consider themselves sellers, like if they're in real estate or recruitment. That's tried and true. But when we think about that 9-step formula, that really is built for the B2B business to create a strategy that serves their customers and then back it up with repeatable processes
Mm.
that allow them to have a more predictable pipeline, that allow them to like build a pipeline that drives revenue.
Very interesting. I see that being super powerful and helpful for, like you mentioned, like 30 million plus organizations. I worked with IBM and Microsoft, and it looks like they have like 20 sales processes, and they try to simplify the whole thing. And
Yeah.
but there's no like a clear path, honestly. Like it's just almost like
Yeah.
sink and swim, and then you figure it out as you go. And I can totally see that being super super helpful.
Yeah, it's
For,
interesting. I actually was on a discovery call with like a bit like a Fortune 100 tech company, a logo that everybody would know last month. And we were talking about having me come in and work with the team because for that particular product line, they're starting to outbound for the first time.
mm,
And even though I spent my career like selling to the enterprise, and I know that just because you're big doesn't mean you have mature processes,
mm,
it's still always a bit surprising to me when I get the chance to talk to some of these big companies and I realize how outdated, like how stuck in the past some of their processes are, where they're so focused on the seller and the product and feature dumping in the company. And to succeed in outbound in 2025, almost 2026, like you have to center the recipient of your messaging. You have to center the buyer in your processes like they just aren't going to pay attention to you, let alone give you their business.
Yes, 100%. You're right on the right spot. There's a huge demand and need for what you do. Like I can, as a seller and working in those big organizations, I can clearly see that. And honestly,
Yeah.
like sales enablement kind of becomes, there's no whole lot of investment on that side either. So
Oh, real. I work with a ton of sales enablement
that's good.
folks. Like it's one of like when I come into an organization, it's generally the founder or the CRO that hires me. But one of the most important partners that I have in the organization is sales enablement, or certainly if I'm being hired for like a sales kickoff or training, it sometimes is just like a head of sales enablement that
They're usually
hires
trying to
me. And
figure
I
out,
think,
right? They're usually trying to they're
yeah,
building their sales and motions and training. That's why they bring you in because they need like that consultant
yeah. And
advice.
I think like I think that like sales enablement, all things considered, is a new-ish title, right? Like a decade ago, we didn't really have sales enablement titles. So even if it's not somebody that has the title, the organizations that have an operations person that's underpinning the repeatable processes so that they are getting operationalized, that it's really easy for the reps to use them, that they feel like confident using them because they understand why they're being asked to use a process and they're given the skill sets to be able to use it. Like that's all super, super important. And it's interesting, like now as you say that, my wheels are turning because I'm very, very lucky. The book Profit Generating Pipeline, it debuted as a top 50 USA Today
Yes.
bestseller. And, that was
Yes.
just about like 6-7 weeks ago that people started getting it in hand. And I'm starting to get the reviews back now as people have read it. And I'm a little bit surprised actually at how many sales enablement folks are some of the first readers that have gone and have
Mhm.
sought out this book, because I thought it would mostly be like sales leaders and sales reps, but it's interesting. It's a lot of
Yeah, there's
sales
a lot of
enablement folks and even rev ops folks.
yeah. They're trying to figure out what to do. There's things are moving so fast, and they sometimes they don't have the support that they need to build those enablements, and
Yeah.
it's a real problem. I know we're running out of time here, and you this is such an amazing conversation. A lot of people listening to this, they're sellers. They want um, to grow their career. They want to do better. They want to sell more. They want to be successful. So, for a career development perspective, what is your best advice so we can close here this podcast today?
Oof. You know what? I think that a theme of this conversation has been adopting that learn it all mindset, or that like
Mm.
always be learning mindset. So that would be my call to action for people, because a mistake that I made earlier in my career was expecting my organization to invest more in me than they were. And because they weren't investing in me, I just was like, ugh, they should be buying me these courses or giving me this learning stipend. And for a little while, I then wasn't doing it myself because I felt like they should be doing it. So since they weren't, I just wasn't doing it. So my call to action for the listeners is invest in yourself. If your company isn't doing it and you're not in a position to go find a new company that will, don't let that stop you from listening to podcasts, from buying books, from investing in courses, even if it's like just free ones from like a Coursera or HubSpot. Like, it is your responsibility to grow your knowledge, and your knowledge is the one thing that nobody can ever take away from you.
Oh, thank you. The growth mindset. It's so important. Especially sales, as things are moving so fast, and if you don't catch up on all the training and all the new tools and new AI and all that stuff, you're just gonna get stuck. So thank you so much for that. I can clearly see that we can talk here for an hour, 2 hours, and Leslie's gonna
Yeah.
have amazing answers. How can they find out more about you, Leslie? I know you're all over the place: TikTok, LinkedIn, books,
I
and
am. I
where
know.
do we
I am all
start?
over the
Where do
place.
we
Yes.
start?
If folks do want to get the book, the best way to do that is go to salesledgtm.com/book. And then you can get it from like every major e-commerce retailer. But if you do it on the website, then you can enter my funnel and then you get like free stuff and invites and stuff. So worth it. I also post every single day on LinkedIn. So make sure you follow me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Leslie Venetz. TikTok at Sales Tip Talk. And I'm pretty much on every other platform at B2B Sales Coach.
Awesome. So if you're not connected yet, connect with Leslie. Thank you so much, Leslie, for your time. Thanks so much for all the advice, talking a little bit more about GTM strategies. And that's all for today,
And
folks.
knowledge.
And knowledge.
Yeah.
And I mean, and we just went to one. There's so many things we could talk about here, like you're a mentor, like you're busy family with building a business. I mean, there's so many angles that we could dive here. Thanks so much for sharing part of your story, and appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tech Sales Funnels podcast, where we crack the code and uncover the strategies to break into tech sales. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to hack their way into this exciting career. Remember, hacking into tech sales isn't just a goal, it's a mission. Let's keep hacking, learning, and winning together. Catch you next time.